Good evening. This is the April 20th, 2022 meeting of the Planning Board. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, members of the Planning Board. The first item on the agenda is an extension of conditional preliminary approval for Coffee Estates in Esconset. The applicant requests an extension of conditional preliminary approval for the subdivision number 1170, map of Coffee Estates. The subdivision number 1170, map of Coffee Estates, received conditional preliminary approval for an 18-lot subdivision from the Planning Board on October 6, 2021. Preliminary approval of the subdivision expired on April 6, 2022. The applicant submitted a request for an extension on March 31st, 2022. The Planning Department has no objection to the request and recommends a 6-month extension. The Planning Department offers the following resolution for the Board's consideration. Whereas the Planning Board has considered the request of Vincent J. Tremarco to extend the conditional preliminary approval for the subdivision number 1170, map of Coffee Estates, for a period of 6 months. Now therefore be it first resolved that the Planning Board hereby grants a retroactive 6-month extension of conditional preliminary approval for the subdivision number 1170, map of Coffee Estates, beginning April 6th, 2022 to October 6th, 2022.
Thank you.
We have the affidavit.
You have the affidavit? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone representing the applicant who would like to address the board at this time?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. We've submitted the affidavit of posting to Matt Collado. The subdivision required extensive open hole testing as the health department required it, so it took us a little longer than normal to get the subdivision underway. We finished the test holes, but we now need this extension in order to proceed. So we ask the board for its favorable consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard on this matter? Does the board have any questions?
You want
Yes,
to come
sir.
to the...
Please come to the mic and state your name and address for the record.
Okay, my name's Arthur Apuzzo. I live at 10 Lawrence Drive. My backyard faces the property that they want to build a homes on.
Could you spell your last name, please, sir?
APUZZO. I just have a couple concerns. That right now, I don't know if anyone's aware, but great horned owls are nested in the woods, and they've been there for 3 years. Now, when the trees are removed, will they look out for the nests for the owls? And if there are young chicks in there, will someone come and try to take them away without harming them? So, and also the red-tailed hawks in there, and there's deer in the woods. Second of all, I'd like to know how long will taking down the woods and putting up the homes, how long it will take? And when removing the woods and then putting up the homes, more people that border that are concerned with debris coming over into their yards. And how big are the homes going to be? Does anyone have an answer to that?
Thank you. Maybe Mr. Tremarco would like to
Okay.
address some of those
That's all I have to
questions.
say about that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Tremarco, would you like to address any of those questions?
Well, I think the first question was the wildlife and the gentleman's concern for same. We have a very strict, as this board well knows, environmental department. So regardless of what the builder thinks he can do, which I'm sure that the builder will preserve any wildlife that he can, in accordance with what the Department of Environmental Conservation tells them to do. As far as knocking down trees, the only trees that we're permitted to remove are those trees that are on a certain tree clearing plan that's must be approved by the Department of Environmental Conservation in our town, the DEW. So there's a whole big tree clearing plan that probably costs $50,000 or $60,000 and is reviewed. The DEW actually goes out and checks on all the trees that we mark up. So that's another protection that obviously the town has and the people in the area. As far as how long, I'm going to guess it's a project that would be at least 2 years from the completion of the filing of the final map. And the size of the houses generally depends on the market, but I'm guessing probably around 3,000 square feet, maybe 3,500 square feet. It's a major undertaking because on Southern Boulevard, for one thing, all the telephone poles have to be moved. There's 3 cul-de-sacs, as you can see on the screen there, and it was set up to actually make it a beautiful subdivision, but also to protect the neighbors. And you can see there's no through street. The street in the middle comes from the back subdivision, but ends up in the cul-de-sac. And the 2 other cul-de-sacs come off of Southern Boulevard. So it was planned along with the help of the planning department. There were 2 or 3 iterations before we even got to this proposed map. So again, for anybody that's concerned about what goes on, the town of Smithtown watches everything very closely, and I'm sure that the builder will conform to any requirements of the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tramarko. Another question? Can you please come up to the mic and state your name and address for the record?
Hi, my name is Joellen May Wadsworth, and I live at 26 Lawrence Drive. I also back up against this. 2 questions. Has the property actually been sold? There's still a for sale sign at the corner, and if so, who is developing it?
If you can
Is
just address the board and then...
Oh,
then-
okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
Has the land been sold? And if so, by whom to whom? Who's developing the property?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Again, Mr. Tramarko, did you have an answer to that question?
The property is under contract of sale. It hasn't been closed yet, and I'm not sure if the proposed buyer is going to be developing the property.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? And now, any questions from the board? Okay, then, in the matter of number 1170, map of Coffee Estates, I move that we close the hearing.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? The hearing is closed. And in the matter of extension of conditional preliminary approval, number 1170, map of Coffee Estates, move that we adopt a resolution as read in accordance with the recommendation of the Planning Department.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? The motion is adopted.
Madam Chair, can I just for the public's information, there will be another public hearing on Coffee Estates. They only have preliminary approval at this time. So what that means is there will be a application filed for final map approval. And at that time, the property will be reposted. So right now, it's just an extension of the preliminary approval. So just wanted the neighbors to be aware that there will be another public hearing on this.
Thank you, Mr. Hans.
The next item is a preliminary subdivision, number 2, 1195 Jamie Anita Estates in Esconset. It's a recommendation to the Board of Zoning Appeals. At the January 26, 2022 Planning Board meeting, the Planning Board directed the Planning Department to look into the feasibility of extending the cul-de-sac on Westminster Court South into the above-referenced subdivision as an alternative to the proposed design. This would provide the required 40 feet of road frontage for lots 1 and 2 and potentially provide access for properties north of this subdivision. It is a common practice of the Planning Board to design subdivisions in a way that considers future development of the surrounding sites. The cul-de-sac extension alternative, however, has pros and cons that the board should consider and are offered for the board's consideration. The pros are: 1, extending the cul-de-sac will still require variances from the Board of Zoning Appeals to reduce the lot frontage at setback from 100 feet to 90 feet on lot 1 and 2, but the road frontage request can be eliminated. 2, extending the cul-de-sac provides possible access to adjacent property owners to the north. And 3, extending the cul-de-sac will spread out the distance between driveways instead of all clustered together at the end of the cul-de-sac. This will allow additional street parking and better ease of snow plowing. The cons are: 1, extending the cul-de-sac will disturb more land, remove more vegetation, and create more impervious surfaces. This will create additional street infrastructure for the town to maintain. 2, the existing drainage pools installed on lots 6 and 7 within the subdivision known as Oak Run were placed along the drainage easement that followed the perimeter of the temporary turnaround easements. Extension of the cul-de-sac will require the existing cul-de-sac to be saw cut with existing curbing and asphalt to be removed. The existing drainage pools may need to be removed and relocated, and the front yards of these lots will be significantly disturbed. Depending on the topography, additional drainage might be required to provide an adequate design for this change. 3, the driveways for lots 6 and 7 within the subdivision known as Oak Run will have to be extended or removed and replaced to meet the new roadway once the cul-de-sac is removed. The extent of the driveway removal and replacement will depend on topography. The applicant would be required to provide a design for this change. If the board is in favor of extending the cul-de-sac, it is recommended the applicant design the cul-de-sac similar to the attached conceptual plan overlay dated April 15th, 2022. The cul-de-sac was drawn off-center to the east, a P shape, as Lot 2 is larger than Lot 1 and will provide potential access to the rear of 260 Lake Avenue, an oversized lot to the north. If the board wishes to proceed with the applicant's proposal, an alternate resolution has been provided for the board. The changes to the requests pending before the BZA. The variance requests that are pending before the BZA are based on submitted plans without any extension of the cul-de-sac. If the cul-de-sac is extended, the request would be modified as follow. You would eliminate the road frontage on Lot 1. The variance to reduce minimum lot frontage from 100 feet to 90 feet on Lot 1 would be changed to 90 feet. You would reduce the road frontage variance on Lot 2, and the variance to reduce minimum lot frontage from 100 feet to 95 feet on Lot 2 would be changed to 90 feet. And the variance to reduce minimum side yard from 16 feet to 4 feet and total side yard from 34 feet to 27 feet on Lot 3 doesn't change, and neither does the lot frontage on Lot 3. If the board is in favor of the alternate design of extending the cul-de-sac, then the planning department offers the following resolution for the board's consideration. Whereas the planning board has considered the request of the Board of Zoning Appeals for a recommendation regarding variances associated with the subdivision number 1195, map of Jamie Anita Estates, now therefore be it first resolved that the planning board hereby recommends the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the variances on Lot 3 and modify the variance request on Lot 1 and 2 within the subdivision number 1195, map of Jamie Anita Estates, subject to the following comment. There is a reasonable alternative. The applicant shall redesign the subdivision by extending the cul-de-sac into the subdivision similar to the attached conceptual plan overlay dated April 15th, 2022. If the board wishes to proceed with the applicant's proposed layout, the following resolution is offered for the board's consideration. Whereas the planning board has considered the request of the Board of Zoning Appeals for a recommendation regarding variances associated with the subdivision number 1195, map of Jamie Anita Estates. Now therefore be it first resolved that the planning board hereby recommends the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the variances associated with the subdivision number 1195, map of Jamie Anita Estates. That's BZA case 18626.
Thank you. Mr. Tramarko?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. We've submitted the affidavit of posting to Matt Collado. Again, I want to thank the planning department, who has worked very diligently with me and my client in order to come up with what we think is the best plan as proposed. I know the board is also looking at an alternate plan, because that's what the board usually does when there's a possibility of extending the road, not to landlock parcels, if you will, that are down the road from where the builder is developing. However, in this case, it really doesn't make sense, because if you look at the cul-de-sac extension that's suggested as an alternative by the planning department, Matt, could you change the?
You want what, the existing or the,
Okay.
this?
No, you had it, I just can't see it, that's all.
Let me zoom in.
If you look at it, the only benefit that cul-de-sac is to the property on the left. The property on the right, the P-shaped cul-de-sac is about 40 feet away from that property, so it is no benefit to that person. All it does is cut into the other person's property, and kind of gives the key to the whole subdivision to the person on the left. It doesn't help the person on the right at all. Additionally, the person on the left has access to her property through a pole, which is, she basically has a double flag lot, and if in the future she wanted to develop that property, the flag lot and the pole part of that flag lot, I'm going to guess, has probably been there for 50 or 60 years. Additionally, for lack of a better word, the mess that would be created, it's not just extending the road and putting in that P cul-de-sac. We would have to, or my client would have to, close up the cul-de-sac that exists right now. And I'm going to let him state, what the result would be, and the causation of what would have to be done to eliminate the first cul-de-sac and all of the utilities, the drainage, the people who live on either side of that cul-de-sac, and the disturbance. So all in all, when you look at it, it's not benefiting anybody, and it's going to be a terrible detriment to the neighbors. So we think our proposal makes much more sense, the first proposal, as opposed to extending the cul-de-sac, although in a lot of cases it does make sense. It doesn't here. So I'm just going to ask Frank Patelli, the builder, to come up and give you guys an idea of what it takes to close up that cul-de-sac. Frank?
Hi.
Your name and address for the record.
Frank Patelli. Anything else?
Your address, please.
16 Milldam Road, Smithtown.
Thank you.
Thank you for hearing us tonight. As far as the cul-de-sac goes, I've been building in Smithtown for about 30 years, built quite a few homes here, and I've always been told to do less is better, the least amount of disturbance that we can create. That's why we originally created doing like a driveway at the end of the cul-de-sac, and this way we would not affect any of the utilities, drainage, the fiber optics, the gas, the water, anything that's in the cul-de-sac. And then at that point, we were going to extend a driveway going back around 28 to 30 feet to about 6 to 8 feet off the back of the property, and then to have 2 driveways go to the houses. This would have zero disturbance to the neighborhood or anything else, and all construction would be on the property that I'm purchasing, and all the trucks and everything else could be parked onto my property and kept off the cul-de-sac and not bother any of the neighbors. Today, I had the pleasure of meeting 2 of the neighbors there. I'm actually building 2 houses at the end of the block, and I have the property at the other end, about 4 or 5 acres at the other end of the street. I spoke to some of the neighbors, and I explained my views on it. One of the neighbors is Kevin. Kevin's back there. I met Kevin. As per request from the planning department, I went out and I tried to speak to the 2 people, spoke to Kevin. He lives on Lake Avenue. He has the property that is technically to the back of my property, to the right. The lady to the left, I'd spoken to her. When I found out after having my engineers go out there that she has an illegal house on their property that she's had for 25 years, she kind of ghosted me and wouldn't talk to me anymore. So I asked her, I said, is this house legal? And she said, yes. I said, it has a CO? She goes, yeah. And then when I checked, it's showing vacant land. So that person didn't want to speak to us anymore. I had spoken to Kevin, and I told Kevin I would try to work with him on his property, because it was all the way in the back, it was kind of landlocked, and to work it into doing something with my subdivision. Like I said, after looking at the cul-de-sac that would come into the property, we would have to wipe out a lot more trees than normally, and I still can't reach Kevin's property with that cul-de-sac. It still falls around 40 to 50 feet short of his property. The only benefit it gives is to the woman that has this illegal house for 30 years and rents it and has a cottage on it and has pools and everything else. And again, I'm not a fan of that person, but they have an illegal structure there, and it's actually benefiting them. And they have access through a flag lot. So I did speak to a couple of the neighbors. I just wanted to explain what I was thinking of doing. And at that point, making one driveway, so this way we have enough room for the snow removal when they could push it to either sides of the driveway going onto my property. The fiber optic cables, all the drainage, everything a lot of the stuff is run onto their properties on the front of their houses. Everything would have to be moved. I spoke to Verizon today. They were working over there. They said it's an undertaking. It's not simple. So again, I've been working in Smithtown for over 30 years, many homes, and they've always asked me to always do less than more to disturb the neighborhoods. This is a very simple thing. And again, the only benefit putting that cul-de-sac in is giving it to the woman that has a legal house for 30 years that's been renting it. And that kind of upsets me. It's like she's the only one that benefits from it. And again, I can't reach Kevin's lot, but I would have to try to work something out with Kevin, who owns the property to the right on Lake Avenue, to add his property to mine. But, I won't be able to get another house out of it. It'll be technically just making the property a little bit bigger. And again, that's pretty much it. It would be an undertaking because the road would have to get ripped up. I would be kind of vulnerable to having anybody get hurt from us tearing the road up, and it's not going to be a week process to do that work. We're going to wait to utilities, which is water, electric, gas, fiber optics from Optimum, Verizon. I mean, as everyone knows, it could take months to many months for them to put stuff in. We can't depict when they do this. So the 2 fronts of those homes are going to be torn up for quite a time. I just feel that this is the most simplest way to do it. We're still getting 2 houses either way. And to give benefit to someone that illegally, I do everything right. I pay my taxes has a house for 25 years and hasn't paid a dime taxes to the, Smithtown, and, kind of lied to us about it. And like I said, they have illegal septic systems on there and everything. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any further questions on this matter? Would you like to come up and speak? Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Kevin Carney. I live at 260 Lake Avenue South. And I believe I spoke to you at the last meeting about my concerns about the proposal. Kearney. I'm not going to speak to the specific proposals that are up there tonight and just reiterate my original concern, which is that permitting the original proposal to proceed forever precludes me from developing the back of my property at this point, as far as I understand it. It prevents the lot to the north of that one, the part of the flag lot behind me. It's landlocked, so it could never be sold separately from the other one, and the flag lot itself is not in compliance. I should think that the goal of planning is to have good development that conforms to the requirements of the code, and so anything that you can do to facilitate that, I think, is in the town's interest and in mine interest, I'll admit. And the proposal with the P-lot, while it doesn't reach me now, it also doesn't preclude something reaching me sometime in the future, should the people behind me elect to sell. That opens it all up. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else have any questions for the board? Can you name and address for the record, please?
Phyllis Ochensky, it's B as in boy, Ochenski, 20 Westminster Court South. So my property is right to the east of the existing cul-de-sac, to the left of the. Okay, first of all, I just wanted to bring up the signage. This sign was posted on April 15th, and it had no date on it. And that was the one that was posted in the cul-de-sac. It was posted on Lake Avenue. Then we had the storm, and the signs fell off. The sign on Lake Avenue was conveniently folded up and placed on the lawn where nobody could see it. We did have an issue last time also with the signs. All right, my concern is still with the lots, the new properties, not having a front yard. The definition of a front yard is that it's facing a street. In this scenario here, if they just built the driveways, it would not be facing a street. The way it is right now, no, the other one? Okay. If they just built one driveway going in, these two houses are facing one another, there's going to be, from what I understand, a driveway going up, but it's not a road. From what I understand about zoning, Smithtown zoning setbacks, you are required to have a front lawn with the street. And it has to be 40 feet. Am I not correct?
You're required to have road frontage, that is correct. So that's the role of the board here tonight. There's also, this matter is also pending before our Board of Zoning Appeals for variance request to reduce the required road frontage. So it's hard, let me see with the hand here. If you can see the hand on the screen, technically their current road frontage goes from this point to this point. They have 50 feet of road frontage that's touching their property. And then you draw an arc around here. So this technically would be the road, the lot width at the required setback for Lot 2. And then you see Lot 1 has this archway. So they both technically have road frontage, but it's 25 feet instead of the 40, because you're going from here to here.
But the houses are not facing the street. They're building it sideways.
They don't need to face the street. They need to have adequate road frontage, but the house does not have to technically face out towards the road. That's a front yard setback line.
And doesn't it need to have, so what you're saying is that it does fit the requirement of
No.
having a front footage?
I'm saying it has road frontage, but it's inadequate road frontage
Okay.
as proposed now, and that's why they're also before the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Okay,
So that's why we came up, if you want to comply with the road frontage, you have the cul-de-sac extension option, which is what we drew here. Now, this one is in compliance. However, it's far more disruptive to the
Correct.
neighborhood. So, I'm trying to zoom in here a little. So if you can see on this map, this being, I believe, your home, the last one on the right,
on the left,
over here.
yes.
So in order for him to extend the road, he would now put the cul-de-sac up here. He would have to remove the existing cul-de-sac. So all this asphalt and curbing that's in front of your house gets ripped out. He runs a new curb, a straight
Well-
run to do this on both sides, and then he's got to basically replace this with lawn and extend your driveway. So that's what the board has to consider tonight, whether they want to go for an extension or leave the existing cul-de-sac as is.
Okay, well, there's a house down, a street down the road from us called Beaujol Court.
Right.
And what they did is they had an existing cul-de-sac, and apparently they broke through. They left the cul-de-sac. Can't the cul-de-sac be left the way it is and then just break the street?
The highway department has done that in the past. Generally, it's not right next to one another. You know, you might have 500 feet or 300 feet between cul-de-sacs, but it's not an ideal situation. You're left with these wide bowed-out areas that the town's still responsible for maintaining, plowing. So to have a cul-de-sac that widens and then comes back, you know, in at a point and then back, it's just not what the highway department prefers
Because
to have.
on our surveys, when I bought the house, it did have possible future roadway development.
Yep.
And, I mean, if they just broke that street and they had to break into, you know, extend that road,
It is an option, but it's not an option that the highway department and the highway superintendent prefer, to have two cul-de-sacs right next to each other.
it wouldn't be a cul-de-sac.
Well, it
What
would
I'm
be,
talking is.
yeah, it would widen out, it'd be a
The existing
figure eight.
cul-de-sac remains, and they just break the street as wide as the other side. They did that on the other side of Westminster Court, where the new houses are.
If that's an option that the planning board wants to consider, we'd have to bring it back before the highway superintendent and the engineering department. That's not an option that they've reviewed. Basically,
I
it
mean,
was to
you wouldn't have
utilize
to
the-
rip up the old cul-de-sac. And if they do the possible future roadway, that street is already there. And I just have pictures also of the snowstorm that we just had back in January. As you can see, there's a lot of snow, and if they put another driveway there, there's no place to put snow.
We listed that as one of our cons in our recommendation.
They're hoping to put snow on either side of that driveway, right?
It's not going to be enough space. As you can see on these pictures here, I mean, I can leave these pictures with you.
Yeah, what is, Washington, you want to do Washington?
Personally feel we should make a move tonight because this is only a matter of tonight. All we're doing tonight is making a recommendation to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Am I correct?
You are correct, but the recommendation of the Board of Zoning Appeals is dependent on which preferred method you'd want to go.
Do you feel we should adjourn this, Mr. Collado or Mr. Hans?
You mean adjourn and have highway and
And the engineer look into it.
And then we did everything possible. We'll turn it over to the highway
It's up to the
department.
board. If the board wants to adjourn it and have.
Adjourn it, let him look at it, and come back.
Come down and cul-de-sac here, and then they extend it.
What's your personal,
What's that?
you think we should?
If it's something that the board wants to consider, then I think you would need to adjourn it. We were looking at two different options. One was leaving the existing cul-de-sac with two driveways coming off it. One was extending the cul-de-sac with removals of the existing cul-de-sac, which technically is a temporary turnaround easement. It's not listed as a cul-de-sac, it's a temporary turnaround. Or we can look at making it a permanent turnaround with a new extended cul-de-sac. Kind of, in my opinion, defeats the purpose. You're extending the road, you're removing more vegetation.
I think that the proposal that we have before us now, the original, is the way to go.
Right, there's no turnaround room at the end. The opposite side of the street, that's kind of shaped like a T turnaround, so if somebody needed to back out, they could back out. It's a little bit different of a situation.
But I completely understand from a snow removal aspect too. You'll have 3 or 4 driveways right there at the end of the cul-de-sac. So the highway department would need to be, a little creative that way as well.
Do you think we should,
I think before the meeting, we were more in favor of keeping the design as proposed by the applicant. If you want to consider this, then I think you will need to adjourn it.
how does the board feel? And do you have any questions on this? How do you feel?
I was in favor of doing the one driveway
The
before
one
we started
driveway
tonight,
before we
but since the resident came up with a good option, I think we could postpone it, let's talk to highway and come back. We want to get this right, so to me, that's the most important thing, is getting it right, so.
Okay, I think,
That'll be one driver, right? Not two at the end?
Mr. Chamarko, did you want to address any of those questions?
I would let all the public speak, and then, yeah.
Anybody else want to speak on this?
Oh, okay.
If you finish your comments, ma'am.
Are you finished?
I believe I am. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And
So is it two driveways? It's just one driveway?
one, I'll show you.
Philip D'Amelia, 19, Philip D'Amelia.
Can you spell your last name?
Sure, D as in David, apostrophe A-M-E-L-I-A. I'm at 19, so I'm on the right side of the opposite house. I understand when we first bought the house, there may be some changes to the roadway. I myself would prefer to obviously leave the way it is, but knowing that the builder wants to put the houses there, I would actually, even though there's more work that has to be done to the roadway, with, in essence, if you had to close up the cul-de-sac and move the cul-de-sac further up, even though there is further disruption, and I have 3 kids, so I understand the disruption, I would much rather have something that looks normal. Because when you have properties, people are less likely, right? It's great to have it on an ad. It's way worse when you actually walk up to something and you see something that just does not fit. And as a homeowner, we pay a lot of taxes to live in Smithtown. And to think about when you walk up to that, seeing a driveway, seeing 4 driveways side by side, and then what you see in the front, I understand being the fact that the snow removal those mounds were 6 feet high, the whole width from driveway to driveway. It was 6, 7 feet high of snow. So I don't know how that, in any which way that works with any kind of driveway. Extending it, at least you'd be able to push it around the cul-de-sac like you do now. You can put it further out there. Once again, I would lose space where the cul-de-sac is where my kids play, but I'd rather that, only because just aesthetically, it just looks better. I have in my mind, when I look at, looking at, when I'm walking or driving down the road and I see a road in front of me, and there's like, there's just a road and then there's two houses, I think it looks terrible, terrible, especially for the area that we live in. So, I mean, I would prefer, if on these two choices between the initial roadway, putting that driveway there, or extending the cul-de-sac, I, as the homeowner on the other side, would prefer the fact that it takes more work on their part. You're taking a risk in doing the work in the first place. So the risk is not really, understand it as more of a disruption, but the risk is the risk. You bought the lot, if that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do. If you have to pay to take up the roadway and fix our properties to make it, to make us whole, that's the responsibility of the person doing the work. So once again, I would really prefer to see a cul-de-sac there, which is what we had. Keep it a cul-de-sac. If indeed you can make it where the cul-de-sac and the road goes straight through, like Phyllis had mentioned, that's preferable than this, but once again, I would rather have something that looks normal for the area instead of honestly, a very ugly-looking driveway in front of the court, with 4 driveways next to each other. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Brian Biedenbender. I'll spell it. Beedenbender. Good. All right. I live at 14 Bella Court, so if you're looking at this map, the west side of Lot 1 is where I live. So I obviously don't live on the street like the two people that spoke before. So I just had a couple questions. I think they're more for the town for clarification than they may be for the applicant. In both of these situations, the orientation of the house is, parallel with the houses that are there. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
And as part of the town's approval, if granted, would that require them to remain in that orientation?
No.
No. So at what point in this process, when, let's say we get to the point where something's being built, at what point will that be something that, would the neighbors have an opportunity to engage in that?
No, as you can see, go to the white map. You can see there's a building envelope
Mm-hmm.
that's,
Excuse me a sec.
That's okay. I understand what you're saying. So my concern as who lives behind it, listen, these houses are behind me now, and they're beautiful. And having houses in that same orientation just makes it look the rest of the neighborhood. So listen, I would prefer that nothing gets built here, but I'm a realist. I realize something's going to happen. I would just prefer that the orientation of those houses remain the same. The only other question I had was, before there was a discussion on the previous property about tree clearances and tree requirements, and I think Mr. Tremarco spoke about it. What are the tree requirements of these properties? Is that something that you guys have, or something we can find out?
Every subdivision is required to submit a tree preservation and land clearing plan, and that's reviewed by the Department of Environment and Waterways. Basically, you try to preserve as much as you can, and the trees that are allowed to be removed are for all the areas of development and regrading. You can't just clear cut the whole site. So
I agree, and obviously, as the neighbor, that would be my strong preference as well. The one concern I had, and this happened from, I'm assuming somebody that was working for the builder, a while ago, the surveyor came through, and he was walking through the property, just looking at it, and the back of Lot 1, which is abuts my property, is incredibly infested with poison ivy. It comes through the fence and everything, and at that time, the surveyor had suggested that the existence of that rampant poison ivy might allow for all that to be cleared. Is that factual, or is it not?
I mean, poison ivy is invasive and you're allowed to remove it. If it's killing the trees, I mean, it probably should be taken down.
Yeah, no, and like I said, I realize something's going to happen here, and so I'm not against, obviously. I tried to buy this, but I can't afford what he paid for it, so congratulations to him. But that is just my issue, because there's an old dilapidated fence, so this is probably more just something that I'd like to work with you on as you're building.
Can you address the board, please?
Sorry, I apologize. Clearing that fence and making sure we address the poison ivy and leaving as many trees as is legally required without unduly influencing. And just with my neighbors, I'm for what they're for. This is their street more than me, so
Yeah.
I would just defer to what they suggested, and that's all the comments I have.
And just to the other first question you had.
Yeah.
I can maybe get the computer to work. So if you see the dotted lines,
Mm-hmm.
that's your building envelope, so
Mhm.
you're permitted to build within that area.
Okay.
I don't think there's any rules that say the house has to be positioned this way or that way. It's not,
Okay.
it's you file a building permit.
Okay.
And if you comply, you're issued the building permit.
So if they chose to angle the house, they have that permission, but they have to stay within that dash building envelope.
Okay, thank you.
And then on the question of the trees, the removal, they have to leave so many trees. It has nothing to do with the poison ivy. The poison ivy will stay right with the trees. They don't care if there's poison ivy.
No, and that's why I
Somebody else
asked.
will come, people who buy the house will have to remove the poison ivy.
Thank you. That's why I
Thank
asked,
you.
because what somebody walking through the woods says is not necessarily
Yeah,
definitive.
right,
So
right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, sir. Your name again.
Philip D'Amelia. I don't have to spell it this time, right? Okay. If there is a disruption to the property, I'm going to assume the builder is responsible for whatever work is needed for whatever is destroyed, driveway, or anything as far as curbs and stuff like that. Is that the responsibility of the person doing the work?
Yeah, they're, yeah,
So not-
they're bonded for that, so any damage, the town, they have to submit that money to us,
Okay.
in the form of like a performance bond.
I'm sorry, sir?
No.
What's that?
I don't think that's what he was asking.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that if there's any disruptions or any work that has to be done
That's what
to my, like my property, who's on
But if they
the,
take the cul-de-sac out, I think it's his expense to make his driveway go to the street again, Matt?
Correct.
Correct.
so
So
if
if
they,
we take out that cul-de-sac, and you see where the curb line is,
Mhm.
you're gonna pay from your driveway from where it is now to that curb again. That's your expense, not the builder's.
any reason? Or how does that, if you rip up the driveway now?
No, the builder would be required to extend the driveway to the new curb.
Oh, he would?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, but you're disrupting our property, so that would make sense. And then the second thing is, I'm just putting it, someone to say on the record, when I spoke to the builder, and he's actually spoke to my wife today, and he was a gentleman when he spoke to her, was, the houses will be situated, as you just said, that was actually communicated to us. So just for it's on the record, just that it was communicated that the intent of the houses were to be placed similar to how ours were. Okay, yeah, so
Right.
I just want to make sure that's on the record, because it is important that is orientated that way. I mean, either direction it goes, but they're in the same direction, so, all right, thank you. That's-
I mean, not to jump in, so before tonight's meeting, there was two proposals. There was existing cul-de-sac with one or two driveways coming off of it. There was an extension of the cul-de-sac, and now your neighbor brought up the possibility of an extension of the cul-de-sac with the existing cul-de-sac remaining. You have any thoughts on that? Because you're as affected as your neighbor.
Yeah.
And you were talking about weird aesthetics. To me, that's a weird aesthetic.
Making it like a cul-de-sac in the street?
Keeping an existing cul-de-sac and then a new cul-de-sac 20 feet to the north.
Yeah, my understanding was it was not a cul-de-sac and a cul-de-sac. It was like a weird, like a snowman. I thought it was a cul-de-sac and then like a street,
I
straight
think is
through.
what they're discussing is leave the existing cul-de-sac and just shoot a road off of it, as opposed to doing another cul-de-sac. I don't think they're suggesting
Yeah, that's what I
that.
thought that Phyllis was speaking about, yes. So it's like a
So I don't know,
cul-de-sac and then,
Just so I know what to relay to the highway department, it was gonna look like an hourglass. It was basically, if you can follow the hand, you would keep the existing curb line in front of your house and then have a new cul-de-sac.
no,
No,
that
it's
wasn't what it
straight.
was. It was just straight through. It just, as if take the
So-
road that's currently there and just go straight through.
Keep the cul-de-sac with, let's say, 30-foot extension of the road coming
Your,
up?
your actual red lines that are on there,
Yeah.
almost like it would be that. It would be like those red lines going straight, yes.
Okay. Let's keep doing this. Okay.
So is that one of the proposals that we have? Not currently, no.
No, not before tonight.
But as of my preference, if those were my choices, the first one is the least, just from aesthetically. The second would be, even though I think it's more disruptive, would actually just having a cul-de-sac look like, mostly like a cul-de-sac, and the third would be, the second choice would be extending the road straight through.
And we were talking about adjourning to talk to Highway and have them, weigh in on this, to look at the feasibility of that option that was proposed by, I'm sorry, I forgot your name, ma'am,
Phyllis.
but what she said.
And all I would ask is, like, we've been here now since this was first built, to really take, hopefully, into consideration as us as homeowners. I understand the builder has to build something, but we've been here since the beginning, and I think that, our kids have grown up here, that what we at least feel is presented as far as aesthetically correct for the area is hopefully taken under, please take that under severe consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. If you want to come back up, you have to.
Kevin Carney again, 260 Lake Avenue South. I just want to point out that the only proposal that comes close to addressing my concerns is the one with the P. And while I understand their preferences and don't object theoretically, I guess I'd say, philosophically with it, I am still concerned at the deterioration, whatever the word is, to the property at the back of my property. The fact that it really makes it virtually impossible to ever develop it. And while it has been mentioned tonight, there is another half of Westminster Court that lines up with this one. And the only thing separating it is the house behind me and a little sliver of land beyond that. So I'd like to feel that options were kept open and that I wasn't precluded from ever developing my property. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me check with I had a question for the judge. An adjournment would be,
Certainly, if you want to look at the other option is to adjourn it and then, look into it, have Highway look into it. I noticed the way it would be redrawn, you're going to end up with what looks like to be a dead end, and there may be something that they don't want for emergency vehicles and stuff like that, but it might solve the snow plowing issue, so I don't know how you want to go.
Take the recommendation of
But if
Highway.
your choice, if you adjourn it, you could have the agencies look at it and come back with different opinions and make possibly a better decision.
okay, so, Mr. Tramarko, would you like to make a comment?
I think I understand what was suggested by one of the neighbors, to extend the road from the cul-de-sac straight through and dead-end it. There's no cul-de-sac, there's no turnaround. I think what Mr. Patelli said that he would like to do is run, maybe we should call it a common driveway, about 26 feet wide, up to the both houses. So the houses that he intends to build will be facing that common driveway, and then it will turn off because the garages will be on the other side of the houses. The benefit, I think, is, well, it's a little less than a 30-foot right-of-way, number one. Number two, the highway department doesn't have to maintain it, because what the suggestion is to continue the road, then it becomes a dedicated road. Highway has to maintain it. In the alternative, which doesn't have to be, it can be done within the parameters of what we're asking for tonight, is it'll look like a road, however, it'll be private driveways, basically, for the two new houses, and the two new houses will have to maintain that particular area. And, we've done it more than once where we've had cross-access easement agreements where the two neighbors agree to take care of that particular area that's common. And it'll look exactly the same, maybe a little narrower than putting in a 30-foot road, and what would you accomplish by putting in that road? The houses are still going to face the same way, it's going to look the same, it's just going to be a little narrower, that's all. And the highway department, I don't think, would in any way approve a dead end. They haven't approved dead ends in years because they can't turn around. And in this case, they would have to take care of the, they being the new homeowners would have to take care of the snow on that roadway going to both of their houses, which would be really a private driveway and have the same effect that one of the neighbors is requesting. So that's all.
It would just be one curb cut, not two.
What's that?
It would just be one curb cut, not two in the
Yes,
middle.
exactly, right.
Again.
That would be basically the original plan.
I would say that's the original.
That's the original plan, just with one drive instead of two.
So we have, that would be, if we adjourn it, we'd have to get the highway involved and see if they want to.
Well,
Look
if
into
you're
it.
doing a private driveway, they're not gonna get involved. And then it doesn't help your snowplow, because they can't push the snow into someone's private driveway.
So should we adjourn it for the highway department to look at the, making it into a road?
We could make it.
Is that feasible?
Yeah, you could make it public.
It might not necessarily be a private driveway. It could be an extension, if it's an extension of the cul-de-sac, it would still be
And
town
a
property.
dead-end road.
Part of it would be, yeah.
So in light of this, I guess a recommendation would be, let us have a discussion with the highway superintendent.
And if we adjourn it, when we do adjourn it, we have, we're looking at how long it might take, but this is going to be a while before the highway department gets to look at it. We have May 11th, June 1st, June 22nd, July 20th, and we have a lot of meetings coming up. Well, how long do you think the highway department's going to need to look at this situation? You think we should give them,
Yeah, I think we can have a discussion, either May or the June,
The
the
June-
early June hearings.
maybe the June
Fine.
1st? Mr. Collado?
What's the first meeting? May 11th. And then next one?
It's May 11th, June 1st, and then June 22nd.
I don't think we have to go as far as the 22nd.
Okay.
I know we have another matter on for the May 11th, but,
I think you could get it by the May 11th. We're not designing it, we're just looking.
yeah.
We just need the highway department's comments on this, correct?
Mhm.
So then May 11th would be appropriate?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can shoot for it.
All right, then, any more comments and questions from anyone here? The board, good with that? Good
Yep,
to
May
adjourn it
11th
to
is
May
good.
11th?
Yes.
Okay, so, Mr. Schmalko, we're going to adjourn this to May 11th to get a comment,
Yeah.
to get a comment from the highway department. Okay? In the matter of number 1195, map of Jamie and Eda Estates, I move that we adjourn the hearing to the May 11th, 2022 meeting of the planning board.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? The motion is adopted. Thank you.
The next item is a preliminary subdivision for number 1189 Meadow Glen Estates in Fort Salanga. The applicant requests preliminary approval to subdivide a 6.75 acre parcel into 6 lots with single-family dwellings. The preliminary subdivision, number 1189, map of Meadow Glen Estates, is comprised of 2 tax lots located in the R43 zoning district. The site is surrounded by R43 zoning and single-family dwellings. The site is approximately 320. Sorry. If you can't hear, yeah, just let me know if I'm reading too fast. The site is approximately 320 feet of frontage on Meadow Glen Road, 50 feet of frontage on Yellow Brick Road, and 50 feet of frontage on Sally's Path. The topography of the site ranges from 155 feet to 185 feet above sea level. Approximately 0.9 acres of the site contains steep slopes. On May 25th, 2021, the Board of Zoning Appeals granted the subdivision a variance to alter environmentally sensitive land, slopes in excess of 15% on lots 1, 3, and 4. That's case 18478. The existing dwelling on Lot 5 is to remain, and the existing dwelling on Lot 6 is proposed to be removed, and a new dwelling is proposed to be constructed closer to Meadow Glen Road. The applicant is proposing to construct 2 new dwellings off Yellow Brick Road and 2 new dwellings off Sally's Path. The yield of the subdivision in compliance with the zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations is 5 lots. Pursuant to the Long Island Workforce Housing Act, General Municipal Law, Section 699, the subdivision is required to designate one of the lots as affordable, and in return, the applicant receives a 10% bonus density. Therefore, the subdivision is entitled to a 6th lot. The law also permits the affordable workforce housing unit to be constructed outside of the subdivision plat, but within the same local government. In addition to the variances granted by the Board of Zoning Appeals, the following variances are required based on the proposed layout. On Lot 1, reduce minimum road frontage from 40 feet to 25 feet, reduce minimum lot area from 43,560 square feet to 39,038 square feet due to ESL. Lot 2, reduce minimum road frontage from 40 feet to 25 feet on Yellow Brick Road, and reduce minimum lot area from 43,560 square feet to 42,424 square feet. That's due to ESL. Lot 3, reduce minimum road frontage from 40 feet to 25 feet, and reduce minimum lot area from 43,560 square feet to 34,849 square feet due to ESL. Lot 4 is reduce minimum road frontage from 40 feet to 25 feet, and reduce minimum lot frontage from 150 feet to 25 feet. Lot 5, reduce minimum lot area from 43,560 square feet to 42,345 square feet due to ESL. Pursuant to Section 24831 of the subdivision regulations, the planning board has the authority to review and grant the above referenced variances at final plat hearing. It appears the lot area variances and lot frontage variances are a result of the 6th lot, the 10% bonus density. Therefore, the applicant should be granted those variances. The road frontage variances could be eliminated if the applicant connected Yellow Brick Road to Sally's Path. However, that option is not recommended, as it will result in additional disturbance of environmentally sensitive land, additional tree removal, and an increase in impervious surfaces. Typically, the planning board extends cul-de-sacs if there's land adjacent to the subdivision that can be developed. However, that is not the case in this application. Section 24831B of the subdivision regulations requires the subdivision to be clustered because it will impact slopes exceeding 15%. The planning department recommends the subdivision be clustered by placing a 50-foot wide conservation easement along Meadow Glen Road. This will help protect the steep slopes as well as preserve mature trees along the road. Driveways are permitted within this easement. The Highway and Traffic Safety Departments have found the preliminary subdivision acceptable. The Engineering Department has found it acceptable, subject to a condition related to the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. The Department of Environment and Waterways has found the Tree Preservation and Land Clearing Plan acceptable and recommends a secret negative declaration. The Department of Environment and Waterways also recommends conditions related to land clearing and site preparation before construction. These conditions will be included at the time of final plat approval. The following resolution is recommended for a number 1189, map of Meadow Glen Estates from the Department of Environment and Waterways pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act. Whereas the Planning Board has considered the secret recommendation from the Department of Environment and Waterways, now therefore be it first resolved that the Planning Board, after due study and deliberation of the subject record, issue a secret negative declaration, determination of non-significance. An EIS is not necessary in the matter of the application for subdivision approval by Meadow Glen Estates, LLC, for number 1189, map of Meadow Glen Estates, for the following reasons. A, the proposal does not appear to significantly threaten any unique or highly valuable environmental or cultural resources as identified in or regulated by the Environmental Conservation Law of the State of New York or Smithtown Town Code. B, the proposed project does not involve the disturbance of any lands that contain poor soil properties or high groundwater. C, although the proposal involves the alteration of steep slopes, such alteration appears minimal in nature and is only for the proposed driveways for lots 1, 3, and 4. It is not expected to adversely affect neighboring properties or public health, safety, and welfare. D, the applicant submitted an alternative plan which demonstrates that the steep slopes could be avoided by extending the Yellow Brick Road cul-de-sac. However, this action would disturb more land, remove more trees, and increase impervious surfaces compared to the proposed design. E, the small size and nature of the proposal mitigate against a significant adverse impact upon the environment. F, the proposal appears to be consistent with the planned use of the parcel and compatible with neighboring land uses. G, the project as proposed on the tree preservation and land clearing plan prepared by Elizabeth McQuilkin, licensed land surveyor, and dated January 31st, 2022, provides for the retention of a significant amount of existing trees and natural vegetation upon development of the subject parcel. Such preservation shall be ensured by the placement of snow fencing, mesh construction fencing along all limits of clearing and around any individual trees to be preserved within the clearing areas. This shall be done to the satisfaction of the Environmental Protection Director. And said fencing shall be maintained in place by the applicant until the completion of all land clearing and grading activities at the subject parcel. The Planning Department offers the following resolution for the board's consideration. Whereas the Planning Board has considered the request of Meadow Glen Estates, LLC, for preliminary approval to subdivide 6.75 acre parcel into 6 lots. Now therefore be it first resolved that the Planning Board hereby approves the preliminary subdivision, number 1189, map of Meadow Glen Estates, subject to the following conditions. A, the subdivision shall be clustered by placing a 50-foot wide conservation easement along Meadow Glen Road. Driveways are permitted within this easement. B, the subdivision shall comply with Section 699 of New York State General Municipal Law, Long Island Workforce Housing Act. The applicant shall demonstrate in writing how they will comply upon submission of the final subdivision application. C, prior to final plat approval, a stormwater pollution prevention plan must be submitted. The proposed development is disturbing more than 1 acre. Therefore, certain requirements of a stormwater pollution prevention plan must be met, and that no discharge to surface waters is permitted for storm events up to a 100-year storm during all phases of construction and at other times. If no discharge to surface water is anticipated and 25% or less impervious cover is anticipated, a conditional release will be issued for the project by the town. D, concrete curbs will be required on Meadow Glen Road as directed by the Highway Department. And second resolve, that this preliminary approval shall be valid for a 6-month period to expire on October 20th, 2022. And we have the affidavit of posting.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. As Mr. Colato indicated, we submitted the affidavit of posting earlier this evening. If you would just take a look at that map and our proposals, which, as you well know, the Planning Department recommended this proposed map. You can see that Yellow Brick Road and Sally's Path end up at the borderline of the property on each side. And there were 2 ways to do this. One way is to, as indicated in the planning report, is to run the road, continue, whether it be Sally's Path, the Yellow Brick Road, and connect to both. That would be have a tremendous impact on the environment, and probably just as importantly, it would make it a through street and probably some sort of a shortcut to get to Meadow Glen Road. So the best alternative here is what my client proposes, as well as what the Planning Department recommends. The conservation easement is fine on Meadow Glen Road. The only thing that 50 feet can be penetrated with is driveways, obviously, to get to the houses. We also understand and obviously have to comply with and will comply with the workforce housing, whether that be on the property or somewhere else, I'm not sure, but more likely than not, it will be somewhere in the town of Smithtown other than on this particular subdivision. And as you know, that's permissible under the workforce housing rules and regulations. So we feel that this is a good application. It's the least effective on the environment, and the variances requested are basically because we're going to run driveways from Yellow Brick Road and from Sally's Path to the 4 houses in the large area to gain access to them, rather than putting in a road. I know that on Sally's Path, the people make use of the cul-de-sac, and that's fine. I don't see any further disturbance of the use of the cul-de-sac. These driveways, there'll be sufficient parking areas on the property. As you know, the properties are 1 acre zoned, and due the environmentally sensitive land which was taken out, we need a couple of variances, but we more than comply with the total acreage for 6 houses. So we ask the board for its favorable consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard on this matter? Does the board have any questions?
I just got one quick question. Lot 6, there's an existing home there that's being demolished?
I'm sorry?
On lot 6, that's being demolished?
Yes.
Okay.
You have a question?
Just go up to the mic, please.
Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Madam Chairman and members of the board. My name is David Levy, L-E-V-Y. I live at 37 Brewster Avenue. So thank you very much for taking the time to listen to us all tonight. I have actually just a couple questions just for my own clarification, so I understand fully what the development process is. So I understand that it's all 1 acre zoning for this area, but you had mentioned something about a bunch of variances for setbacks and also
Yeah,
size.
they're proposing several variances, yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes, they are proposing variances.
So the proposed variances were for setbacks and also for home sizes, or?
No, let me get that page out.
It was lotted.
They got road frontage, lot area, and lot frontage across several lots.
So when you
And
talk
just-
about lot area, you're talking about the buildable envelope?
The buildable lot area. So
Buildable
you
lot
can't include environmentally sensitive land in your buildable lot area. So in this case, it's slopes greater than 15%. So the lot may actually have, let's say it's 50,000 square feet, but if you have 10,000 square feet of steep slopes, your buildable lot area is 40,000 square feet. So from visual standpoint, all the lots meet the acre, but from a zoning standpoint, the buildable lot area does not meet the acre.
Okay. So the property, especially, so my house is all the way on the left of the screen, and it abuts the, I guess, I'm not sure how the numbers are, but maybe the top
You
two
on the
of them.
north side of Brewster?
So I am, looking at that, I'm all the way on the left side of the screen. So, yeah, I'm the left side.
This one?
That's my house right there, yeah.
Okay.
So my house abuts the 2 lots that, I guess maybe that's 1 and 2, then 3 and 4, 5 and 6 maybe. So there's, that part of the property is very, very hilly over there. So I'm assuming a lot of that's gonna need to be regraded, and, you know, I know that you have environmental protection in terms of number of trees that can come down. Not really sure how that part works or how well it's enforced, quite honestly. I mean, for example, on Heights Road, 3 Heights Road, which is right down the block, that was sold in 2020, and it's a 2 acre lot. It was a horse farm, the original owner.
Yeah, I'm aware. We're looking into it.
Yeah, I mean, there's literally 3 trees left on that piece of property.
Right. I don't want to get off topic, but we're looking
Well,
into it, just
so
to
yeah,
let you know.
So, you know, so really, part of my, really my only concern is clearly if, you know, I didn't want it to be built or it was going to be progress, I have to buy it myself, which I understand that part. But really just how do you protect that environmental envelope where the hills are and the trees are, and how do you prevent that from being overly developed?
So they're required, before any trees can be removed, they have to mark out all the trees to be preserved. It gets inspected by the environmental department. Then they're permitted to cut the trees down. then you submit a building permit. If it's showing that the proposed dwelling is altering any slopes or any regrading, they would have to go before the Board of Zoning Appeals to request a variance.
So that back area that does have a lot of hills, that's not.
Can I see one of the maps?
Yeah, I was gonna say, it looks like this is gonna be developed further away from you.
Do you want to just?
Right, so I see, I guess the dashed line is the building envelope, and the house kind of
So
butts up
you're-
against it.
Yes, one of those.
Your home would be over here where my.
Right, correct.
I can see here, Tom. I'm good.
Okay, I'm done with it.
Yeah, we're done with them anyway.
Can I see that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, when you look at the map, you'll see that the shaded area is where the steep slopes are. So yes, they can't alter that, unless they go for a variance. Based on this dwelling location, they should be able to build the house without touching it. If they are proposing to touch it, then they would have to go before the BZA.
So is there anything, once a homeowner buys it, is there anything that prevents the homeowner from just doing what they want, essentially, once they?
I mean, yes, like, if they're putting in a pool, you know, you gotta go before the board.
What about just cutting down a tree? Or two?
There's
or
no
three?
covenants. You,
Yeah.
I think you
Yeah.
gotta be careful when you put covenants on, not allowing people to cut. You can't, I don't think you can cut trees down on slopes, but you gotta be careful with what
Okay.
covenants you put on.
And then I guess also really, my biggest concern would be, I guess even on Lot 2, the envelope, the dashed line, which I'm assuming is the building envelope because of the setbacks. It's, I guess that building envelope is 60 foot from Brewster Avenue. I'm assuming part of this, this hearing is to locate the driveways on those areas. Putting a driveway on even like a loop-through driveway that goes from Brewster to Yellow Brick.
Yeah, I mean, we could put a condition that says access is only from Yellowbrook Road.
So
The board could do that if they felt it made sense to do that. It's up to
Okay.
them.
So right now, the way this is the way it would be as opposed to.
So this is just preliminary. We're just kind of really looking at the layout. This would come back to the board for a final application, and that's when you could be looking at things like that, like should access only, what is that, Lot 2, should access only be from Yellow Brick Road? You're looking at performance bond items and stuff like that. So this will come back before the board. We could, at final hearing, add that in, or have him, put it in as one of our comments.
Okay.
But
And
if they approve this tonight, they can't go out and start building. They only receive preliminary,
Right.
not final.
Okay, and that would be announced the same way with the sign on the.
Correct,
windows?
yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully, we're not going back to virtual, so yes, unless we go virtual again.
So what is the time frame in terms of when that would happen typically?
So if the board approves it, you have 6 months to file the final application, and then it gets reviewed. It's kind of hard to give a time frame of how long that takes. And they can ask for an extension, just like the first item on the agenda, that was approved, they asked for an extension. But it's kind of hard to give a time frame, really.
They could be back in 3 or 4 months, or they could be back in a year.
Yeah,
Okay, so essentially, once it gets approved, then we're just kind of
Yeah.
wait and see what happens from there and kind of follow along the
Right.
process, all right?
Mhm.
Okay, all right, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions from anyone? No? The board have any more questions? Okay, then, in the matter of number 9, map of Meadow Glen.
Second.
Aye.
And in the matter of number 1189, map of Meadow Glen Estates, I move that we adopt a secret negative declaration as recommended by the Planning Department.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. The motion is adopted. And in the matter of subdivision preliminary approval, number 1189, map of Meadow Glen Estates, I move that we adopt the resolution as read in accordance with the recommendation of the Planning Department.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. The motion is adopted. Thank you.
okay, the next item is a zone change petition recommendation for case number 2022-03, TDG Acquisitions LLC. Just get to the page. Number 1, the reason for the report, the planning board will conduct a public hearing on April 20th, 2022, to consider the above referenced zone change petition to change the zone from WSI, that's wholesale and service industry, and R10, single-family residential on 10,000 square foot minimum lot, to RMGA, which is garden apartments. The petitioner is TDG Realty Acquisitions. The subject site is 4.96 acres and consists of 3 tax lots. It is approximately 465 feet of frontage on Jericho Turnpike. The site is not located in or near any surface waters, wetlands, flood hazard areas, or high groundwater areas. The one significant constraint is topography. The elevation rises from 110 feet at Jericho Turnpike to 135 feet near the rear property line. The site is currently used as a trailer sales and truck accessory facility known as Trailer City. The zoning and land use, the site is zone WSI and R10, and there's trailer sales and truck accessory facilities and some outdoor storage. North is zone WSI and has a restaurant, nursery, filling station, and car wash. To the south is zoned R21 with single-family dwellings. East is WSI and R10, a wholesale showroom, Long Island window and door. And to the west is RMGA with garden apartments. Zoning history, in 1932, the site was zoned A business, 200 feet depth from Jericho Turnpike, and A residence, which is 1 home per acre. In 1949, it was zoned E neighborhood business, that's 200 feet depth from Jericho Turnpike, and C residence, that's 4 homes per acre. In 1958, the 200-foot depth from Jericho Turnpike rezoned to G1 commercial, which is equivalent to today's WSI. And in 2022, the zone change petition was filed to change the site from WSI and R10 to RMGA. The proposal is to rezone the site from WSI and R10 to RMGA for a proposed 3-story, 40-foot in height, 98-unit garden apartment building with 107,723 square feet of gross floor area. The petitioner is also proposing parking, a garden area / common area, and 3,500 square feet of amenity space. The proposed garden apartment complex will be under the same ownership and part of the same community as the adjacent Fieldstone apartment complex to the west. The site will connect to the existing sewage treatment plant, serving the adjacent apartment complex, and share an entrance to the site. The petitioner plans on including the adjacent site when calculating zoning requirements such as gross floor area, minimum lot area per dwelling unit, and parking. It appears the project as proposed will require a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals for gross floor area, building height, retaining wall height, accessory structure setback, and alteration of steep slopes. The Planning Department would like to note that the site plan submitted with the zone change petition is conceptual and would be subject to review by the Board of Site Plan Review, and any variance request would be subject to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Any approval of this zone change should not be construed as an approval or endorsement of the submitted site plan, site design, or yield. Planning considerations, pursuant to section 322-3 of the zoning ordinance, a garden apartment is defined as a low-rise residential building or a group of buildings in which dwelling units are attached at one or more common roofs, walls, or floors. Each unit's habitable area shall be located above ground level. It appears the petitioner's proposed use complies with the definition of a garden apartment. The Town Comprehensive Plan adopted in 1961 recommended that the Jericho Turnpike corridor be predominantly WSI to provide wholesale supply and service business to the area. Since 1961, the town has rezoned many more properties to WSI, which is more likely the main reason for reduced demand for WSI zone land. Additionally, the rear portion of the site is zoned R10, is not feasible to redevelop for single-family residences as it does not front a street. Constructing a road from Jericho Turnpike that provides access to the R10 portion of the properties is not as advisable, and that the new homes would be isolated from any neighborhood. In 2018, the town of Smithtown began updating the town's comprehensive plan. Although the plan is in draft form and has not been adopted, it is a product of the town's needs, constraints, and trends. The planning department has used draft updates to the comprehensive plan in the past as a guide for reviewing zone change petitions and zoning ordinance amendments. The update reveals that the town lacks a diversity of residence types needed to meet the present and future needs of town residents. Under the section Comac Community Plan, the draft comprehensive plan update analyzes the West Jericho Turnpike corridor and Comac. It recommends the subject parcels be considered for multifamily residential use for the following reasons. One, the town recently approved a garden apartment complex and assisted living facility on the nearby properties, which has changed the character of this portion of the corridor. Therefore, a proposed rezone to RMGA is compatible with neighboring land uses. Two, parcels located in this area are larger and can therefore accommodate multifamily developments. Furthermore, the large properties could provide adequate buffers to the residential neighborhoods south of the site and are considered a good transitional use between Jericho Turnpike and single-family residences. A buffer consistent with the site to the west is recommended. Three, nearby sites are either underutilized or vacant and could feasibly be converted to residential. Four, West Jericho Turnpike is an informal gateway into the town of Smithtown. Many residents consider the appearance of the corridor to be average or below average. Redevelopment of the site has the potential to enhance the appearance of the corridor, which is vital to welcoming vehicular travelers. Five, the petitioner takes advantage of connecting to an existing sewage treatment plant on the adjacent property to the west. Six, there is a demand and need for this type of development with the community. Furthermore, the site is in suitable location for the proposed use. It is within walking distance to the Mayfair and Northgate shopping centers. The location has good access in that it fronts a 4-lane primary arterial highway. The highway is also used as a bus route. The petitioner should consider some modifications to the conceptual plan. When only reviewing the subject site, the gross floor area of 51.5% is very substantial, whereas by combining the subject site with the site to the west, the proposal can better comply with town zoning requirements related to gross floor area. It is recommended that the subject site and the site to the west be combined for site plan purposes and designed to complement each other with respect to architecture and shared amenities. In order to comply with New York State General Municipal Law, Section 699B, Long Island Workforce Housing Act, it is recommended that 10% of the units be designated affordable workforce housing in accordance with the laws. 8, referral to the Suffolk County Planning Commission pursuant to Section 239M of New York State General Municipal Law. This petition was referred to the Suffolk County Planning Commission because the site is within 500 feet of a state highway. The attached comments were received from the Suffolk County Planning Commission. The recommendation, the Planning Department offers the following resolution for the board's consideration. Whereas the Planning Board has considered zone change petition 2022 I believe that should say 03, by TDG Realty Acquisitions LLC to change Suffolk County Tax Map 800-94-2-2 and lots 3 and 4 from WSI Wholesale and Service Industry and R10 Single Family Residential 10,000 square feet minimum lot area to RMGA Garden Apartments. And it's found that 1, the proposed zone permits a use that is compatible with neighboring land uses. 2, the proposed zone would tend to not have a negative impact on adjacent properties through adequate buffers. 3, the proposed zone is consistent with the 2020 draft comprehensive plan update. 4, the proposed zone helps reduce the excess of commercially zoned land in the town. 5, the proposed zone permits a use that will provide a residence type to meet the current and future needs of town residents. Now therefore be it first resolved that the planning board hereby recommends the town board approve zone change petition 2022-03 by TDG Realty Acquisitions LLC for a change of zone on Suffolk County Tax Map 800-94-22 and lots 3 and 4 from WSI and R10 to RMGA, subject to the following conditions. 1, approval of this petition does not imply the Board of Zoning Appeals or Board of Site Plan Review should approve variances or site design submitted with a petition. 2, in order to be consistent with the site to the west, a 30-foot natural buffer shall be preserved along the southern portion of this property adjacent to the residences. In addition to the natural buffer, there shall be an additional 30-foot buffer of densely planted vegetation for a total of 60 feet. The planted buffer shall include slopes and any necessary retaining walls. Parking and drive aisles shall not be permitted in the buffer. And 3, the site shall comply with the requirements of New York State General Municipal Law, Section 699B, Long Island Workforce Housing Act.
Thank you. Is there anyone representing the applicant who would like to address the board at this time?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Anthony Guardino, law firm of Farrell Fritz, PC, Hop Hog, New York, representing the applicant. I just want to hand up some materials if I could. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So as I mentioned, my name is Anthony Guardino with Farrell Fritz. I represent TDG Realty Acquisitions in connection with this change of zone application. My client is seeking this change of zone from WSI to R10, and R10 to RMGA, to allow it to construct a 98-unit age-restricted garden apartment building with associated amenities. I have with me tonight, I'm not sure if we'll actually get to it, I wanted to make sure I brought all the people here in case the board has questions. A lot of the consultants are here that would deal with site plan issues, and I know this is not a site plan hearing, but the board may have questions, so I wanted to make sure that everyone's here. So I have Dan Pedersen from Bowler Engineering, Salvatore Coco was the architect with BHC Architects, and Wayne Muller and Matt Shiner from R&M Engineering. Rob Denoto, who is a principal with TDG Realty Acquisitions, is also here with me tonight. I'll be brief because Mr. Cataldo did a great job with that memo, and I don't have a whole lot more to say. He covered pretty much everything, which is great. I thought the memo was terrific, and of course, we like the conclusion. We hope the board does as well. But the property is about 5 acres in size, 3 tax lots, south side of Jericho Turnpike. I think you're all familiar with the property. The property is used by Trailer City today. Trailer City is improved with a couple of small buildings. That used to be I think the Fontana Gardens statue place where they used to make the statues. So they had all these little buildings that are on the site that I believe the Trailer City still uses. All of those buildings, of course, will be demolished in order to build this apartment building. But like many parcels along Jericho Turnpike in this area, the parcels are in fact split zoned. You have WSI up front along the frontage of Jericho Turnpike, and then R10 further to the south on the back portion. The site is located along one of the last stretches of Jericho Turnpike to be redeveloped, and is surrounded by a mix of land uses. A lot of areas along Jericho, as you know, have been redeveloped, and I know I did the Artist Senior Living and I did the Fieldstone next door. Those seem to be the last parcels that to be developed. They were still the residual from what was there in the 60s. But you do have a mix of land uses in the area now. You do have, as was mentioned, the Long Island Window and Door. You have the Fieldstone, which is next door, which will become part of this development. It's the same use, same developer, same owner. You have across the street, across Jericho, you have the car wash, the gas station, the nursery, and what's the other one here? There's a restaurant across the way. And then, of course, to the south along Astor Court, you have homes, but they're far south of the site, and they face the other way. And you have photos of the surrounding properties in your booklet. The site of the Fieldstone apartment community to the west was similarly zoned, WSI and R10, and was in fact rezoned to RMGA back in 2017 by the town board following a favorable recommendation by this board. So in probably 2016, this board made a favorable recommendation for the change of zone. The Fieldstone, that I hope you're all familiar with, relatively new development, is enormously successful. It is 98 units of age-restricted rentals in smaller buildings that complied with the then definition of garden apartments. And there is a swimming pool, clubhouse, pool deck, common amenities. The development, according to my client, was fully occupied essentially from day one. Just to show you the demand for this product. And there is still a waiting list for future tenants. The proposed development is going to be integrated into the Fieldstone and essentially be an extension of that community, so that community will just move towards the east. The two developments are going to share a common entrance. They will share recreational amenities, and they will also share an on-site wastewater treatment facility. The applicant is seeking to redevelop the property with a 3-story, 98-unit garden apartment building, so it would be a single building with about 108,000 square feet of floor area, and you can see that from your site plan in Exhibit 7. There will also be parking and significant green areas. There'll be garden areas, landscape areas, and green common area space, as well as a small 3,500 square foot amenity building that's going to be used as another community space or community center, and a gym. And that building that's on this side of the lot will also be available to the people from the Fieldstone on the west. Again, this is really just one development. that was built, that is being built in 2 phases. In order to buffer the homes to the south, as it was in the memo, it's very important that there be a buffer to the homes to the south. The recommendation is for a 30-foot natural buffer as well as a 30-foot landscape buffer, so a total of 60 feet. This buffer is similar to the buffer that is at the Fieldstone to the west, and my client plans to incorporate that same buffer on this portion. The single building that is being proposed complies with the recently amended definition of garden apartment, and as you can see from the renderings, the building has been designed with materials and architectural elements that complement and are consistent with the Fieldstone development to the west. It will, again, be under the same ownership as the Fieldstone. It'll be part of the same community. This will be Phase 2. For zoning purposes, the development is going to be treated as one single development, essentially Phase 1 and Phase 2 combined, as was mentioned in the memo. And according to the proposed site plan, there will be some variance relief that we will have to obtain, or my client will have to obtain from the zoning board. So that'll be another part of this. And then finally, I'm not going to go into detail because the memo did a great job, but it's very important with a change of zone, as this board knows, that one of the only criteria, legal criteria, is consistency with the comprehensive plan. And I believe that this proposal, like the Fieldstone in Phase 1, in fact, does comply with the draft comprehensive plan update that was mentioned in the memo. For a number of reasons, again, the parcel is large enough to accommodate both the use and the buffer, because the buffer is very important, because you do have residential to the south. The properties, the comp plan mentioned that the properties in this area, many of them were visually uninviting, so they're in desperate need of an upgrade, including this one. So that will happen here. And there is a great demand. As I mentioned, the Fieldstone Phase 1 has 100% occupancy and a waiting list. So as recognized in the comprehensive plan that there is a demand, we actually not only have the comprehensive plan, but we actually have the proof that demonstrates that that in fact is the case. And also just the proximity of the site to shopping. You do have the 2 nearby shopping centers. There was the approval, the recommendation, I should say, of approval that was just read. So that's great news for my client. And then finally, I would point out that Suffolk County Planning Commission also recommended approval of the change of zone subject to certain comments. So I have nothing further. I'm happy to answer questions. I do have the team here. If you want to hear about the site plan, Dan Pedersen would be happy to go through it briefly. If you have questions, I can just bring up the people to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Guardino.
Sure, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
The affidavit,
Affidavit's good.
Thank you.
is there anyone else who would like to be heard in this matter here tonight? Are there any questions from the board?
You pretty much answered my questions, but it's just one access point for
Yes.
both developments, and obviously the same owner.
Common access point.
I have a couple questions.
Sure, of course.
The Fieldstone is 2 stories or 3 stories?
I think it's 2.5, 2.5.
And you're
This-
proposing to make this one 3?
This one is being proposed to be 3, but the same height. In fact, it may be even lower than,
so you have
because of
a
the topography, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And on your 60-foot buffer, you're going to grade it out to the people that live behind it?
It's-
Or is it going to be, if you go down on the other side of Wyandanch, they put a building up there, and then they put a wall in the back that just looks horrible?
Well, it's going to be a similar situation. The topography here is a challenge, there's no question.
Right, I lived there
Yeah,
65
Okay,
years.
there you go. So, yeah, I live me too, in Comac, and so you know the area.
You're going to grade it all the way back?
They
or you're
can't, there's
gonna
gonna be a
grade it
wall.
and then wall?
There'll be a wall. If you go to the Fieldstone 1 in the back, it's gonna be very similar. We had the same situation, the topography was almost the same, and we do have a natural buffer, and so you don't wanna grade, because then you have to remove the natural buffer. So you have to start from the natural buffer, and then
How
it'll
high
be
is the
stepped down
wall
with.
on this one here, on
I don't know, Dan,
Fieldstone?
do you know how high the wall would be, roughly?
Because did you ever see the one on the other side of Wyandanch?
I know which one you're talking about, yes.
It's horrendous.
It's not that, our wall is not that tall. I know what you're talking about, yeah.
May That's
You
what
want,
I
yeah,
saw from,
this is Rob Denoto.
Hi, Rob Denoto, I'm one of the principals.
Can
I
you
think what
just-
you're asking about.
Excuse me, Mr. Donovan,
Yes.
can you just, for our stenographer, can you just? name and
Robert
address?
Denoto, home address or business?
Business address.
7600 Jericho Turnpike, Woodbury, New York, 11797.
Thank you.
DI, capital NOTO. Right. I think what you were asking was from the edge of the buffer.
Right.
That's where the wall's going to be, which is, we can give you the heights on that, that's what exists now, but it is a nice grade.
Okay.
It's not, in other words, if someone
Yeah, the
comes
other
out of their
one's like a
backyard.
30-foot wall.
Yeah, no, and this is, even from the property line, from the people to the south, it's a very natural, grade.
Flowing.
Yes, as best as it could be, under the circumstances.
Okay, great,
So,
thank you.
no problem.
Any other questions? No? Okay, so, with that, I am going to make a motion in a matter of zone change petition 2022-03, TDG Realty Acquisitions LLC. I move that we close the hearing.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? The hearing is closed. And in the matter of recommendation for zone change petition 2022-03, TDG Realty Acquisitions LLC, WSI and R10 to RMGA, I move that we adopt the resolution as read in accordance with the recommendation of the Planning Department.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? The motion is adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Minutes?
Okay, then, now we just have the adoption of the minutes from the March 9th, 2022 meeting of the Planning Board.
Did we want to adopt the minutes?
Yeah.
They were wrong, the ones that they need to
No,
be
no, this is the March
corrected?
9th.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it was? Oh, yeah.
March 9th meeting of the Planning Board.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? The motion is adopted, and now I move to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Aye. This meeting is adjourned.